Hey, y'all. I'm about to invite my guest. Boom. There we go.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry, y'all. We're a little late. I'm going to give y'all a couple seconds to jump on with us. We had some technical difficulties, but we made it work. We are going to get cracking in just a moment here. So, hop on, hop on. Tag somebody, share it for us, please. Greatly appreciate you doing that. We're going to get started in 40 seconds. And I know some of you will go back and rewatch, but we want to get as many people on here now as possible. So we're on this piece on talking about the pain of marketing. And as you're rewatching this, of course, this is all getting you ready and geared towards the Increase Summit, which is happening November 9th and 10th. We are so looking forward to you being a part with us at that. Of course, we have the discount code pregame, gets you 10% off. Make sure you put that when you're registering. When you go to register, on the top section, it says enter code, and then put that in. So make sure you do that. Put pregame, and that will give you the discount for the event. And text the word Increase Summit 47449. It's right on the screen. It should send you a link. If it doesn't, you can just go to Eventbrite Increase Summit and register there. Make sure you put the discount code pregame so you can get the discount. So we're talking about the pain of marketing. And at the conference, we'll have more of an exhaustive piece on the subject, but we kind of want to give you a little intro of what to expect at the event. And I'm hoping that as you all are experiencing this, you'll make a conscientious effort to say, you know what, if this was free, what is paid going to be? And sometimes, again, like I tell people, it's not about just the event. It's about not just the content. It's about who you're going to meet and who you're going to form relationships with and who you're going to build connections with that you probably would have never built had you not met them at a certain space. So with that being said, Indira is on here, and I met Indira at the church. I never knew her before. I didn't know her skill set before, but I got to meet her and understand her skill set, and she's done some work for one of our companies. Both she's done work for the church, she's done work for our B12 company, and helping market. And as an entrepreneur, that's one of the greater challenges that we have is you're so focused working on the business that you can't necessarily working in the business that you can't work on it. And so you need outside people to kind of help you. And for some of us who are sitting here, even listening, it's like, I hear about marketing, but I don't know if that's just posting online. I don't know if that's just, having a t-shirt that says I market myself. I don't know if I'm supposed to just post every. So we just want to give you some practical tools. We're not going to give you everything because some of it you got to pay for. Praise the Lord. And I think that too much free stuff. If you don't pay, you don't pay attention, is what that's been said. But Indira, I want to, without giving the lengthy introductions, like tell us real quick, like what you do and your background, so that they can have an understanding of you're just not making this stuff up.
Sure. So I am a digital, digital marketing consultant. The best way to describe what I do is like a chief marketing officer, but like fractional within different companies. So anything that has to do with paid traffic, copywriting, funnel strategy, campaigns, that type of stuff is all within my wheelhouse of things that I offer to different companies to basically help them get their products for people to know about it and then to also get it sold. So that's what I do.
So if you're looking at an entrepreneur right now and they're, trying to figure out, like, where would you tell them to start? I got this business. Like, I can't afford billboards. It seems like the digital world is where it's at. People
Right.
are way much more on their phones than I would imagine driving, looking at billboards.
Right. So I would look at number one, the type of business that it is. Are you doing like courses and course creation? Are you a consultant of some kind? Are you selling like physical products, in terms of like e-commerce? That would be the first place that the first thing that I would find out. And so
So
the
pause. They need to figure out, if you're watching, you need to figure out three things. Whether you're a course, meaning you're selling content, educational content, whether you're not a brick and mortar store, you're just a Amazon type, you order from me, I send it to you, or you're a retail, which I own a building, people have to come in to access what I have. So you're either one of those four, and then from there, then where would we go?
So once we know like what type of business you have, then we kind of can cater to, well, what is your budget, right? Because a lot of times I think that's one of the things that kind of slows people down in terms of marketing. Like as the saying goes, takes money to make money. So but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to like throw all of your resources into something that you're not really familiar. But I would definitely look at, well, what is my budget and how can I scale it? So depending on what it is that you're selling. So the best way for me to explain it would be, to kind of, no matter what the business is, you need more people seeing your stuff and you need more traffic. It doesn't matter the business. Could even be a ministry. Like you just need more people to see you and be aware of you before they purchase. So that costs either time or money. And so we need to have the realistic conversation of deciding is it both? How much of both do we have? If you don't have a lot of time to devote to the business, then you probably realistically are going to have to spend a little bit more than somebody who maybe does have the time to post 5, 6, 7 times a day or whatever the case may be. So all of those would be conversations that, those are decisions that you need to make as an entrepreneur. Like it's going to cost me either way. So am I going to spend it with money or am I going to spend it with time? But the bottom line is I need eyes on my stuff in order to get it sold. So that would be the next thing that I would look at.
So let's talk about, for some that don't know the term, lead magnets. What are they and how? I think that would be a great start for
Okay.
people who are watching. What exactly, I heard the term, but what exactly does that mean? And how do I go about getting it?
So a lead magnet is when you look at marketing in terms of a relationship, a lead magnet is like you meet someone and you exchange contact information, right? So there has to be something, whether it's, you meeting someone in person or whatever, like there has to be something of value to make me want to give you my contact information. People don't just, unless there's something else going on, but people just don't give out their contact information without a reason for it. So a lead magnet is something as an entrepreneur that you're going to create that is going to be primarily free or very low cost. I would say, maybe $27 or less. And what you're doing is you're going to go above and beyond expectations. So a lot of times people will create these freebies, and because they know it's free, they're like, oh, well, I won't. I can't do, too much. But it's supposed to be part of the wow factor, because you're supposed to receive the lead magnet and say, man, if this is what I got for free, then the paid is going to be that much more. So the lead magnet starts the relationship. It's going to be some sort of a free resource, a free training. Let's say if you are a cooking business, it might be a recipe. It's something that you're giving of value to your audience for free so that it can initiate the relationship for them to continue, to give you their contact information so that you can continue marketing to them in the future, is what a lead magnet would be.
So let's pause and let's help break down for some of these. So basically, if you have any type of business, you want to figure out what can I give someone that's not really going to cost you that much for free,
right,
to start building this relationship to where that you have this trust that whenever I see this person, I don't have to go through all the, do I want to buy? Like, you just know I want to invest in that because I've seen what they do. So let's think about, as entrepreneurs, like, what can we get a shot at the B12 store at the Florida Mall that we have every day. We're open every day. That we can give you and start building that relationship. Maybe it's, if you come in, we'll give you a free assessment, something that can get information, because a lot of times as business owners, can you talk about, like, go to your next step about the lead, how important that information is, because some people just like, well, why would I give someone something for free for their name and number and their contact information?
Oh, so that's a great question. So first and foremost, unlike in the marketing world, you have your social media marketing that you do on all of the platforms. And one of the things that I always say all the time is followers are not funds, right? So you can have 20,000 people following you on Instagram or whatever, but followers are not sales. Followers are not funds. So what the lead magnet does is it takes people off of social media into something that you actually own, because you don't own Facebook, you don't own Instagram, you don't own whatever the platform is. But when you create lead magnets, you do own that list. It is an asset that can travel with you, the whole life of your business until the person, unsubscribes or whatever. So when most of the time when you create a lead magnet, you're getting people's information and it's going into a system where you'll be able to email them or text them in the future. And so as you look at scaling your business in terms of sales, let's say you want to make a certain amount of money later on down the road. Let's say you want to make $5,000. Well, I know if I want to make $5,000 and this is the price of my product, I need a list this size. I need a list 1 to 5% of what it is that I'm trying to make in order for me to make the transaction happen. So it takes you out of guessing and just doing what I call like hope marketing, where you just hope you throw something out there and it sticks. And it takes you into actual, like, you just back and do the math. This is what I want to make. This is what I need my list size to be. And a lead magnet is the thing that starts that off, because you start accumulating contacts. And then once you do that, then, the rest is gravy, as they say.
So if they were starting small, they need to get leads. What are some platforms that they can use to kind of, I'm sure they can consult you to have you help their business, and that'd be great. But what are some tools they can utilize as entrepreneurs to start building and collecting data?
So I recommend, I love Active Campaign, but pretty much all of the email, they call them CRMs, which is like a customer relationship management tool. And so you'll have things like Active Campaign, MailChimp is another popular one, ConvertKit. Those are like the top 3 that are like reasonably priced. The more higher end people might use Infusionsoft, but it's very complicated in my opinion for the cost. So I would say if you're just starting out, then a MailChimp or Active Campaign.
Can you talk about what Active Campaign does, like some of the features?
Yes. So what Active Campaign does is, let's say you have,
we don't pay for Active Campaign, but you're getting this free content and you need to register for the increase. But go ahead. Yeah.
So with Active Campaign, it is a system that all of the names and emails and phone numbers that you collect, Active Campaign stores them for you and puts them, it's like it houses them for you. And so anytime you want to communicate with people, you log into your Active Campaign, you whip up an email or you whip up a text message and you send it out. You are able with Active Campaign to differentiate. So you could say, like, for example, when you register for the Increase Summit, there might be a list just for the Increase Summit, people registered in my Active Campaign. The next time you do something, you name a different list. So then you're also able to see, well, when I talked about real estate, I had, for example, 500 people on this list. When I talk about, something else, supplements or whatever, I have 200 people on this list. So even within the same Active Campaign, you're able to get to know your audience and get to know their preferences, what they like, and things like that. So another thing that I use my customer management systems for is anytime somebody buys from you, you should create, that's like the most important list so you could ever create. When someone buys from you, you should have a list and you title that list buyers, and everyone who buys from you goes into that list. I won't give you, all, but that is a game changer in terms of future, when you try to do future things, having that information instead of trying to pull it together, it will do wonders for you, I'm telling you.
So we got about, we'll take some comments and questions. I don't want you registering right away because then you'll log off, but I know y'all headed to Eventbrite. But before you do, we'll take some questions from the audience in a few, but I want to ask about the whole digital marketing. Like, can you give us like some quick practical tips on, you could just feel lost, like, okay, do I advertise on, how do I do Facebook ads? There's a whole bunch of people, running promos. Hey, you know, pay me to run your ads, pay me to run your ads. And you're like, okay, so I can do it myself. I just hit the boost button and put $20. And so can you tell us the science behind ads? Because we just don't know. We're like, we're good at plumbing, we're good at concrete blocks, we're good at, printing. Like, that may not be our expertise. So can you tell us about what that looks like? And
Sure. So I think that advertising is something that all businesses can afford. I think that it is just something that, it's just at this point required. So um I think a lot of times people think you have to have like thousands of dollars to have an advertising campaign. And while that is great, you can start off as small as $5 a day, $10 a day, especially when you're creating things like lead magnets. Those are not going to be things that are difficult or expensive to advertise. Um, with advertising, what gets expensive is, advertisements that are directly trying to sell you something. Those ads are going to be like more expensive. So starting out, I would say create a lead magnet, something free of value that you want to give to people, and then get them on your email list. And then that gives you the ability to continue to market to people after the advertisement has long since passed their screen. People are busy, they have things that they're doing. And the other thing is, when they jump on social media, like, nobody's waking up in the morning and saying, well, let me open my phone and see what I can go buy today. Like, they're on that platform for a reason. Your advertisement is an interruption to what they're on the platform for. So this is why you need to have a way to be so engaging that you pull them off of it so that they can listen and be attentive and actually hear what it is that you have to say. I would say definitely start with lead magnets as opposed to boosting. I'm not really a fan of boosting unless you're going to advertise them something else on the back of that boost. The reason I'm not necessarily a huge fan of boost and post is because you can't see, like, what did it do, right? And so it's much more beneficial for you to spend $20 and maybe get 4 people on your email list than to spend the $20 for video views. If you're not going to do anything on the back of those video views to get people knowing more about you. So it's kind of, for me, You want any advertising transaction that you do, you should have some kind of contact information that you're getting from people so that you pay once and then you continue to market to those same people until they, hopefully they will never, but it's like a relationship. You give the phone number, we're going to have each other's contact information until something changes. So that will be my recommendation. In terms of early advertising, it's always one of the biggest things right now is that a lot of early entrepreneurs, especially after the pandemic, had said like, "Oh, I'll advertise later. I'll advertise later. I'll advertise later." And then things like the pandemic happen, you don't know, and now you got to start from scratch trying to build an audience, and it's much more expensive now than it was back then. So it's always a great time to start is like immediate. Don't feel like because your business is new, you'll wait. Start as soon as possible, even if it's just $5 a day. Start somewhere.
It's great content, for what you get. That's solid. And if you need Indira, how can they find you if they want to get some consultation and stuff like that?
Sure. So you can email me at indy@indiraparole.com. I'm on all the socials as Indira Michelle. And
Indira.
Yep, Indira, and middle name Michelle. So
let's take some questions from. What was it? On your social? You're Indira
Michelle.
Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Let's take some questions. She's Indira Michelle on all her socials, so go find her and follow. I want to take a couple questions if you have. If you're, of course, rewatching this, you won't have the opportunity to ask a question. But if you are watching it now, you got the opportunity to shoot and fire your question away so that we can be able to serve you as we are gearing up for the Increase Summit with so many great people. We just locked in Gene Darius, who's going to be teaching about buying property as a group. I've done it plenty of times, doing it now, but he's the plug behind it. And why you want to hear from him is it's great to have an idea. I want to buy property with a friend or coworkers, but it's another thing to know what the banks are requiring so that you can do that. And he's going to teach you how to get that done, because we're doing a couple deals now where I want you to understand, like, sometimes it's better to have some of the pie than all of it. Like, so if you have $20,000 and you got to give up your entire 20 grand, now you're like, man, I ain't got no savings no more. I ain't got no money. I'd rather give up 7,000, still have my 13,000, but I'm still a part of the business. And instead of making $150 a month, I can make 50. 50 is better than zero. So always remember that. So there's power in group economics. The only way we're going to get out of the rat race that we find ourselves in, a lot of times, is because we weren't invited to the party. We got to do group economics to get us a little further faster. So y'all want to take y'all questions. Y'all got to speed them up so that we can get them in here, because we have a hard stop. We know people's attention spans is very short, and we want to make sure we maximize the time that we have with you online, because it's critically important that your success actually is our success, because at the end of the day, we want a village that is extremely successful. And the way that we're going to have a successful village is by you being successful in what you're doing. So if you have a question, go ahead and fire it away, unless I'm not seeing it. But we want you to fire your questions away so that we can serve you. I want to ask you a question while some folks are formulating their thoughts. When people are thinking about advertising, like in the digital space, like what are a couple pitfalls people do that they should be aware about? Because at the end of the day.
So knowing your numbers, and knowing your numbers, your personal numbers, and also like what is normal. So for example, when I was saying about if you have an email list, 1 to 5% of your email list will purchase whatever it is that you're asking them to, or whatever the call to action is in the email, like 1 to 5% of them will do it. So let's say your email is on list is only 30 people. Well, 1% of that is not even a person, right? So if I were to send out an email not knowing that information and then no one responded, I don't have to get all depressed and dejected because the pool wasn't big enough for me to even get one person. So there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the business. You just needed more people. Also, as you start to grow and scale your business, knowing like what works for you. So in terms of if you are giving out, let's say you're doing webinars or whatever, and you know personally you convert 20% of the room, then if something happens that's less than that, then you know, okay, something was off. Maybe the link, was too confusing, but just knowing that you know how to kind of taper for the next time. I think that as you grow and you scale, you start to learn like what works best for you. Also, like what is your best learning style? A lot of times, people are trying to do things that are trendy, but that's not necessarily fit your personality, right? So maybe you're not the person who's good at closing sales calls for like a high ticket purchase. Okay, well then you shouldn't be the one doing your consultations. Maybe you're the person who your style of leadership as an entrepreneur is teaching. So maybe instead of trying to do like a very heavy sales webinar, maybe you do a very small workshop because that allows people to see you in your prime doing the thing that you're good at. So it's also about knowing like what you like, and what you're good at, and focusing on those strengths and kind of delegating the rest. Obviously, I know we aren't just born with a whole team, behind us at first, but knowing those things like the activities that you don't like, and then being able to be flexible and do it in a way that you're most powerful in, that's I think will make a big difference because then you're able to be consistent too because it's not something that you're dreading having to do.
Perfect sense. I think a lot of you need to jump on that. Um, ask. They said, don't you also have to be constantly creating or posting content daily along with criteria to marketing list?
No, that's actually not true. Um, so again, you want to treat your clients and you want to treat marketing like a relationship, right? And so you determine the frequency in that relationship, how often we communicate. A lot of times, some people will say, "Oh, well, I don't feel comfortable emailing people, every day and trying to sell them something." Well, if the emails have value in it, what's the problem, right? If you set that as the criteria, then people have to kind of conform to it or unsubscribe. It's all about like what your messaging for your branding is. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who are not out here posting on social media every single day, 4 or 5 times a day or whatever. They prefer to use the money. They prefer to pay for paid traffic and do things like webinars or having a podcast or whatever it is, and then repurposing that content. So again, that just goes back to the point that I was saying before, like what are you good at? I'm good at writing. So perhaps I would have, could start a blog if I wanted to, because I know that writing is a gift of mine, but I don't necessarily have to do it every day. So it's all about people are more so not really concerned about how often, it's the manner in which you do it, right? So you don't want to, you never post, you never communicate, you never email, and then all of a sudden you just show up, boom, hey, I'm having a sale, come by, then you're not going to get the responses that you're looking for. So again, you think about it in terms of a relationship, you know, have you been doing anything to build value? But there's no like set rule that it has to be every single day. No.
I want to close with this as y'all register for the Increase Summit. I want to talk to you. Last question about the copy. Now, a lot of times when I used to hear copy, I was like, oh, well, a copy paper or what? I just realized what the copy is. Can you talk about that in a practical sense so they can be like, oh, maybe that's why I'm sending emails, but I'm not getting the return. And it may be because I don't know what a copy is.
Right. So copywriting is a form of marketing where you are writing things, whether it's emails, social media posts, um, anything, sales pages, order forms, anything where the goal is to get the person on the reading end to buy something. And so that form of writing is different than any other writing that we were taught in school, because sales is very much a psychological process. So there are a lot of things that, the copywriter is thinking about when they're creating those campaigns for you and things like that. So copywriting is any business writing that is done with the purpose of getting sales is considered copywriting. And the actual specific piece is called copy when it's complete.
Y'all, if you know about good copies, you will have a lot of great sales because it changed the name of the game when you have the right copy. So I encourage you to just research it, hit and deer up about it, get as much information as you can. Lastly, be a bringer, bring somebody to the event. I know you're thinking, man, that's an investment. I want to tell you about why investments matter. It would have been easy to do an event for free, and you'd have hundreds of people that register that would not show up because they did not pay for it. But when people pay for things, they pay attention. And again, as they say, that there's no transformation without transaction. I want to encourage you to invest in yourself. Really, the cost is extremely minimal for what you're going to get from Bishop Allen Wiggins, who is building a $220 million facility. Like, how did you get there? What are we talk about networking, but there is a science behind it.
Right.
And a lot of us are going to meetings and we're passing out cards and we're not getting a return. Well, maybe there's some steps you're missing. Is that worth 179? Is a relationship that you meet that would teach you the right steps to network, that would get you the contract that you need, is that worth 179? Or perhaps your credit is not right and you need to get your credit score to a certain place so you can do group economics, so you can do different things that you want to do, but you're not going to be able to do it if you don't have the credit. Right. So how do I fix my credit so that I can get in certain rooms?
Just speaking from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I used to be like, I love live events. I used to be a sucker for a live event. And I will say in all my years of doing that, I've never seen a summit like that pulls from all the different areas. Like, is usually one of these topics alone is within like a summit itself, in my opinion. So I think it's like,
yeah, we want, like most people like PD do a real estate one, and that would, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but here's the reality: there's so many aspects that people's appetite need to be exposed to.
Exactly.
So that my famous line is this: if you think that the greatest burger in the world is McDonald's, that's all you'll ever know. But if someone exposes you to another burger that's far better quality, that's far better meat, that doesn't make you as gassy and all that type of stuff, you wouldn't know if you weren't exposed.
Exactly.
So a lot of us are missing out on opportunities because if I said for some, like the event is targeting the entrepreneur that may have a regular job and a business. If you're not making six figures, you need to be at this event. No questions. Yeah. That's, and I'm not saying that in a negative. I think there are ways you can make six figures in conjunction with the work that you're doing. But if you don't know, you just don't know. And I want to let you know, ignorance is very expensive. It's an expensive thing to be ignorant. And so I want to continually push you. And yes, I know you're going to swipe your card and you're like, woo, but I can promise you, you're going to make your money back. You're going to make it back in the information. You're going to make it back in the practical steps on how you can get that 179. I'll get your 179 back in 24 hours. I can promise you that. But it's the fact that you just got to be exposed. And so go ahead and register. It's not false hype. It's going to be everything you think it is and more. And so we want you to be prepared. We want you to be ready. We're still locking down some other folks because I want to make sure that it's not going to be where you're just inspired by people's great stories. That's not what we need. We got that on YouTube. We can scroll and be inspired. We need to be informed, and that's what we're going to do. So, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Next week is going to be great. I'm going to advertise this a little earlier next week. I'm talking with Jermaine Jones from Safe Tax, Go Big and Go Home, about serial entrepreneurship, all the different, we're going to give you some quick tips on different entrepreneurial things you can jump into to make money. It's going to be great. He's one of my first legit millionaires, and as a member of the church. So I want you to be a part with that conversation, and I want you to be able to hear the mindset on what it takes to be great. So next week we're going to boost this up so that we can get as many people to hear about what it takes to be great. Have a great week. Stay in the faith.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.